All right, welcome to Theology on Tap. Today I want to go over John chapter 21. This is the third time that Jesus appeared to disciples after the resurrection. Third time. And they're eating together, and Jesus asked Peter, in front of a few other disciples, Jesus asked Peter, "Do you love me?" In fact, this was such an important question, he actually asked Peter 3 times. Right? We heard this story before, and I'm sure if you were brought up in the church, you know what this story is about. Well, I'm going to question it just a little bit. I'm not saying I'm right and everybody else is wrong, all right? But today's video is just about a question. Right? I feel something that we should do sometimes is we should question things. We should seek the truth so that it could set us free. Right? So this is just a conversation, no right or wrong. Okay? So Jesus asked Peter 3 times, "Do you love me?" Because this is a very important question. Because like I said, that following Christ is not about rules and regulations. It's about love. It's about faith. It's about hope. Right? So do you love me? What is interesting, however, is this. Well, in Greek, there's different kind of love. Well, I mean, when we live our lives, there's different kind of love. There's a love for wife. There's a love for your children. I don't know. Seriously, if you think about it, which love is greater? I mean, you can't really compare it. Really, because you do have a special love for your wife, but you have a special love for your children, and then there's love for your friends. Obviously, your love for your family is greater than your friends because you would most likely sacrifice a lot more for your family and for yourself than your friends, right? I mean, so there are different kinds of love. So in Greek, there are different words for different kinds of love. It's not just love, how it is so simple in English. So Jesus asks, "Do you love me?" And he uses agapao, which is the verb form of agape love. And what I was taught is that agape love is the greatest of all loves. It is sacrificial love. It's something that you would give yourself up, right, even till death, to show your love for somebody or something, right? Somebody. Peter answers not in that same word. When Peter says to Jesus, "You know that I love you," he used the phileo love, which is more like a brotherly love. Well, that's what I was taught anyway. So Jesus was demanding sacrificial love, agape love, the greatest love a man could have. And Peter answers by saying, "Yes, you know that I love you." So it's kind of like saying, if you're in love with somebody and do you love me like so much that the kind of love that you need to get married, and the other person responding by saying, "You know that I love you as a girlfriend." Something like that difference, because there is a difference between love for your wife and love for your girlfriend. I mean, just the status makes it different. All right. So the second time when Jesus asked, "Do you love me?" he used the same verb, agape, demanding a greatest love. Peter answers by using phileo love. But a third time when Jesus says, "Do you love me?" he changes the word love, agape, to phileo love. So what I was taught basically is this, that Jesus demanded greatest love, but since Peter's not willing to go to that level, Jesus lowers his expectation, lowers the demand, right? Because the command is the same: feed my sheep, tend to my flock, right? But Jesus lowered the expectation of love. But when he did that, it grieved Peter because he was asked the same, question 3 times. And he answers, "Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you." And he still uses the word phileo love. So, once again, what I was taught was Jesus demanded greatest love from a man. Peter would not. And that Jesus lowered his expectation of love from Peter. Makes sense, all right? And that phileo love is enough. I guess that's what I was taught. But then when you look into it, look at the word agapao, which is the verb form of agape. First of all, if you go to the definition of word agape, which is the sacrificial greatest love, right? And I went to the Greek lexicon here, and then the definition it says of it is brotherly love. The very first definition of agape: brotherly love, affection, goodwill, love, benevolence, love feast, charity. Right? Doesn't sound like a sacrificial love. Literally, it says brotherly love, which was surprising when I looked it up. So the verb form, basically, when you are saying I love you to another person, it says you're welcoming that person. To welcome, to entertain, to be fond of, to love dearly. Right? So agape sounds more like brotherly love. Because you have friends, you welcome them, right? You welcome them, you entertain people, you're fond of people. You have to be fond of them in order for you to invite people to your house and to entertain them. Okay? When you use this word to not to a person, but for a thing, it says you're well pleased. Well pleased. Yeah, I got a new vacuum cleaner. I am very well pleased. I love that vacuum. I agapao that that vacuum. I mean, that's what the definition of agape is. And then when Peter responds, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you," he used the word phileo. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, right? So definition of this word, number one, is to love. To treat affectionately, kindly, to befriend, to show sign of love, to kiss, to be fond of doing, to sanction, right? To treat affectionately. So I don't know which is greater love. I mean, you got to be reading a bunch of other books written in Greek back in Jesus' time to figure out what the difference really are. But just by reading this, I'm just going by reading this definition. Phileo love seems to be more, I guess, showing more love than agape love. Because agape love, once again, is to be friends. This is more like to love, to treat somebody with a lot of affection, to show sign of love, to kiss. It says here, right? You don't just, I guess back then you do greet people with kisses back then, but today you wouldn't do that to your friend that comes in and stuff, right? Actually, these days you can't even shake their hands. So I don't know 100% sure why Peter would use another verb, but I'm thinking now more like Jesus' demand and what Peter was willing to give is not that much of a difference. I don't see that much of a difference between agape love and phileo love, unless there are other books written in Greek that could show something that is different. Possibly. This is just a question. Possibly. Could it be when Jesus says, "Do you love me?" He uses the agape, which is not that much of a demand of a love. When Peter responds with phileo love, that he's actually telling Jesus that he loves Jesus even more than what Jesus was asking for. Perhaps that could be the reason. And I say that because if you look at the context of this conversation, what happened right before this? Well, Peter was out fishing, catching nothing. Jesus appears at the shore and says, "Hey, let your net down to the right-hand side of the net, not the left-hand side of the net," which they do, and they catch a lot of fish. And at this time, Peter didn't recognize Jesus because they were about a few hundred yards, 100 yards away from the shore. He didn't recognize him. But when they were able to catch a lot of fish on the right side of the boat, Peter then recognized Jesus. And what did Peter do? All the other disciples that were on the boat, they hauled all the fish in and they rowed the boat in, which took some time, I would think. But Peter put on an outer garment because he didn't have it on because he was fishing, and he jumped into the water and swam over to Jesus Christ. So he was super glad to see Jesus Christ, to a point that he's willing to swim in. So he was showing Jesus how much he cared for him. So when somebody that you admire and that you love, that you're willing to give up everything to follow, and they ask for love, do you love me? Wouldn't it make more sense for Peter to use a verb, right? A word that is greater than what was asked. Because that's why, if my wife were to ask me, hey, do you like me? I would say, you know that I love you. Something like that, right? Just a maybe. That's what I'm thinking. Now, I'm not saying this just to go against what I was taught, but to me, some reason, this makes more sense. Right? So the third time when Jesus says, do you love me? He was, agreeing with Peter. Do you love me? Like, higher. And Peter said, you know that I love you. Why you keep asking me these things? And Jesus, go tend to my sheep. All right. That's what I'm thinking now. All right. Regardless, love is what it takes to follow Jesus Christ. Love is definitely what it takes to follow Jesus Christ. Now, if you like the question that I'm asking today, just questioning the things that we were taught growing up, if there are a lot more questions that we have about our own belief instead of just following what we were taught, which I think we should do. We should always ask questions. And if you like my content, please subscribe to my channel, like this video, and share it with your friends. I would love to one day get enough subscribers so I could go live. Then we could really have a long discussion, because I could talk about this for over an hour. All right? And that'd be kind of cool. Anyways, God bless you. Have a great weekend, and I'll definitely see you next time. Bye.